When you have a big decision to make, family members may not have your best interests at heart.
It's happened to all of us. You get an email from HR that it's time to take action related to your benefits or your taxes, always with an urgent due date attached. But how are you supposed to know what to do, especially with all that's going on right now as an employee at large corporations, decisions to be made, things going on in the marketplace? You got so much on your mind. So that's what we're digging into today, how you can get to the right place in terms of answering those urgent requests, getting to a more proactive place, and where to get trustworthy advice so you can make a confident decision instead of just hoping for the best. So hello and welcome to Money on Your Mind from Edelman Financial Engines. I'm Michael Liersch, a behavioral scientist, financial planner, and chief planning officer at EFE. Thanks for joining us for a conversation about how people are feeling about money, what they're wrestling with, and how financial planning can help you straighten things out. Today, we're talking with Ryan Cahill, an EFE financial planner. Ryan is an excellent professional. He and I have gotten to know each other over the past couple of months, and I couldn't be more excited to have him here. Ryan, welcome to Money on Your Mind. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. Happy to be here. Happy to share our story.
Awesome. And Ryan, I always like to talk a little bit about you, your personal journey. I know you and I have talked a little bit about your why and your purpose for even being a financial planner. But I want the audience to hear that from you directly rather than from me. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Grew up around Detroit, headed to Kalamazoo to be a student at Western Michigan University. Go Broncos. Met my wife there, celebrating our 25th anniversary this summer. Two wonderful kids, and was lucky enough to be introduced to a financial planner in the mid-90s. So 1995, I applied to be a part-time worker, $4.25. After paying for parking in my subway, I pretty much broke even every day, but that got introduced to a wonderful career. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but once I worked at a law firm, I decided that wasn't as exciting enough for me. So I decided to use my powers of, my dad used to tell me I could persuade anyone to do anything, right? So I tried to listen to that. I don't call that sales. I just call that trying to help people the best I can. So 30 years ago, I started in the only career that I've ever had. And the only job interview I've ever had was for that 1995 internship. It's been one long ride ever since.
Wow, Ryan. Well, in that journey, I'm sure you've heard a lot of things from clients. And for this particular episode, I know you were very passionate and specific with me about wanting to focus on, employees, decision makers at corporations and what they're feeling, what they're experiencing right now, especially because for a lot of people, it's compensation time. There's a lot of decisions around, employee stock. There's a lot of decisions just around their investment and financial plan in general. Can you tell us a little bit before we hop into what you're hearing, why you're so passionate about this particular topic?
Yeah, I think most corporate employees and executives, they just don't have enough time. They are really smart folks. They work their tails off. They have 400 emails every day, and there's maybe 3 or 4 that they get throughout a week or a month that they set aside. They said, this is important. I know it is. I don't know what to do about my restricted stock tax withholding. I don't know what to do about my employee stock options. I don't know, should I turn off my 401k right before my bonus is paid? Because the guy at lunch was talking about that. That seems like something I might want to do, but I really don't know. And those emails pile up. They have 20 minutes of sanity on a Sunday. They think they can get through it. They get distracted. They don't make the decision. They don't know who to ask. So at the end of the day, um, they're struggling. They're making a lot of money. Some of these folks, a lot of these folks, doing really well, right? But they're struggling to make decisions that they know are impactful to their family, but they just need some help.
So my heart's beating really fast, Ryan, right now, because you're like describing me on a Sunday
Yeah.
exactly. And I think to myself, how does Ryan know me? But this is why you and I have gotten to know each other, since I've joined EFE, and why I'm so excited for you to talk to all our listeners here today, because I'm sure so many of them can relate to exactly what you just said. And when we think of the behavioral science behind all of this, there are really two key components. I think one is, the sense of overwhelm, in one part of your life, the job you have, and you want to do a good job. You set aside some time to do that, but you're exhausted. You feel like you don't know where to start, and so then the overwhelm actually compounds itself, and then it turns into the sense of regret aversion. Am I going to make the wrong decision? Should I do this, that, or the other thing? And you don't really have the right framework in order to make sure you're moving forward in the most productive way.
You have to take the advice and get the advice while you can, right? So after 29 years of doing this job, I had an accident, and I'm helping my father-in-law put his boat away, for the hurricane season in Florida. I'm standing on a boat lift that's 8 feet in the air, and the cable snapped. So this is May of 2024. The boat hit me, threw me into the piling behind me, broke my
Oh my
knee,
gosh,
broke
Ryan.
my arm,
Wow.
fractured four vertebrae, both my scapulas, and threw me in the water. Had it not been for a retired sheriff that was walking his dog, who ran immediately, dove in the water, and saved my life, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So life is
Wow.
short. Life is short, and people need to take advantage of every minute. That's how I live my life, and get some help. You can't be the best at everything, and if you're working your tail off, find your person, that can help you, make decisions not just for yourself, but for your family, for your kids, for the legacy that you're going to leave behind, and that's what we try to do.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because hopefully for our listeners, they take this as that moment and can be more proactive on the topic. So Ryan, I really am grateful that you're here, and that you're going to tell us what you're hearing then from all of these clients you're working with right now who are in this spot, a lot going on, to your point, solving, amazing human problems in their professional life, have a lot going on, in those environments in terms of stock price movements, and, how the company's doing and earnings and all this sort of stuff. And then on their personal life, they're neglecting that, maybe more than they should, but they have you, as, their person. Why don't you tell us what's on their minds right now?
It's like, what do I do with the following? And it really is almost like a calendar, right? So you start the year with, what should I be putting into my 401k and my HSA? Should I have a flex spending account? That's number one. Number two, in my 401k should be pre-tax, after-tax, Roth. Now we have the Roth catch-up. They don't even know how to sign up for that. They literally, there are companies now that haven't even changed their enrollment or their 401k software, so that's even an option, right? So then you have taxes. The 1099s are coming. Are they right? A lot of times when you have stock options and restricted stock, their 1099s have a supplemental form that, if you don't give that supplemental form to your accountant, your taxes are wrong, and you're probably paying more taxes than you need to, which then gets you to the tax time, which then, do you owe a bunch of taxes that you weren't familiar with? And then finally, you take a deep breath. It's summertime, and then it starts all over again, right, in the fall, when you get the emails for benefits, deferred comp, supplemental savings, and the rest, right? And then you take a deep breath at Christmas time or the holidays, and you do it all over again.
So there's this whole calendar of events, and people want clients or referrals, or the people you're talking with, they want to make sense of all of that. So that is a great foundation, Ryan. That's super helpful. With that in mind, Ryan, we like to talk about the biggest mistakes you see clients making right now. Can we dig into that? What are you seeing?
Sure. We talked about this before this call, and I kind of changed my mind. I hope I'm allowed to
Oh,
do that,
I
right?
love
Yeah.
that. That's my favorite. Okay.
As I was talking with my team, and I said, "What are the biggest mistakes that people make?" And like the one that you talk about all the time in our meetings, we have a term that we use. It's like, "Don't retire, get fired." And people are like, what? It's like, well, like you have a very important role at your company. I know you're burnt out. I know you want to retire by Christmas time or January or after bonuses are paid and just walk away because we have a plan and you can. But I might be 60, I might be 65, I've had a great career and I'm ready to hang it up. And by just offering that, to your boss or your team or your HR, you may come up with a solution that's a win-win for everybody, which is these companies, they have severance packages for a reason. And I know a severance package, you are technically, being fired, right? But that's okay. Like I would much rather, walk away knowing that I was very transparent, with my company, that I was able to help them finish that project. I was able to help them with the transition with my role, to hire someone new, to go out like on top. And if they compensate you for that, for sticking around for 3 or 6 or 9 more months, that's huge win for you, and it's a huge win for them.
I have never heard that in my career, but the sentiment really resonates, which is how do you create a integrative or to your point, a win-win? It's not zero sum, right? There's not a winner or a loser.
Yeah.
It's a benefit to all. I love that idea. And to your comment, it's actually just a really great way to show your care and support for your organization, your pride in your work, and then ultimately being planful in your own family and financial life for that moment. So I
Yeah,
think
we
that's
talk about,
really sage
not to
advice.
interrupt, but we talk about too. You better not be bluffing now, right? Because you better have someone that you worked this out with like ahead of time, right? Because if you go to your boss and you're like, I think I'm done, they might be like, see you later, right? I mean, so
So you
it
really
can't.
better be prepared for that
Yeah,
moment too. And that's what's
that's
great
right.
about the scenario planning, to your point. Can
That's
you
right.
really do this? Can you really say that?
That's right.
Um, and that's where the confidence comes in, and making that request or that offer authentic.
That's
So
right.
really, really, really great advice, Ryan. Um, I'm not going to take it anytime soon myself, but I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. I
Good. I
promise.
hope. I hope so. I hope you stick around.
Oh, I'm planning on it. So the last thing I want to do, and we do this again in our podcast, is really have you share with us what you think everyone should be doing right now. But in this context, it's employees,
Yep.
the corporations that you're talking about. What should they be doing right now? Just one thing, Ryan, for them to focus on.
Find the voice that they can listen to, that they can trust, right?
Okay.
If that's a financial planner, if that's a family member, if that's a friend, if that's a coworker, find the person, right, that they can trust. Because if there's an opportunity that comes up in their life and they have limited time to make a decision, who is that going to be? Who are you going to call, right? So you have an offer from your employer, but you have to move to San Diego. Should you take it? We need to know by Wednesday, right? That's who are you going to ask? Your spouse, your kids, your parents? I mean, like, do they know your financial situation? Do they know how to evaluate that? How to be objective? Probably not. I mean, they might be there for like emotional support for sure, right? But you need to find that voice that you can call, you can have that Zoom call or, email, say, I need your help right now. So find someone that's available, find someone that's accessible, that knows you inside and out. So when the time comes, and you have to make that decision, you know who you're calling.
So I just encourage everyone within your call to action, when you have that need, to your point, these, especially on the big decisions, but even with the little decisions, that's what your person is there for, to be that thought partner, to be there for you. So I love this call to action, Ryan, giving everyone the agency and think of it as like that, authority to ask for help. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ryan. Any last thought you want to leave with our audience before I close this out?
I would just say, just take one day at a time. Make it count. Do your job. Find someone that can help you with the rest of your life, right? The rest of the big decisions. Take care of your family. Make every moment matter, and you hope the rest of it will work itself out.
Well, I'm going to go do that this weekend for sure. I'm going to be hanging out with my daughter and my wife. We're going to be enjoying my daughter's squash tournament. So I'm in it with you, Ryan. Let's make every moment matter. And within that framework, thank you for sharing your personal stories, your experiences with your clients. And we're so grateful that you were on this episode. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Take care.
So that's everything we have for today. This has been Money on Your Mind. A big thanks to financial planner Ryan Cahill for joining me. And we'll be back next Wednesday with a new episode. Subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube so you don't miss it. And hey, if you leave us a rating too, we'd really appreciate it. I'm Michael Liersch from Edelman Financial Engines. Talk to you next time.